Yeah, so I just want to just excuse me, I have some difficulty with the internet or Zoom. I don't know, today it's a bit messy, but if I disappear, sorry about that. But for the presentation, I will just cut my video to give me a chance to do it. So thanks, Emily, for the introduction. Yeah, my talk, I will present to you some recent work about anthropogenic impact on subarctic forest in the Nain region. Study of Norton. So it's time. Okay. Study of Norton forest dynamic and their management often underestimate the influence of anthropogenic impact on forests due to history of minimal commercial or industrial forestry activity. This is particularly the case in the context of territories occupied by First Nation or Inuit community, where subsistence activity are characterized by a significant use of forest resources. The vast territorial extent of the Norton forest with the small size and dispersal of the human population that live there or currently live there suggest that the human activity on this forest was insignificant. So in the majority of study done yet, Norton or subarctic forests are described as pristine or weakly disturbed area. However, the Nain region has a complex settlement history extending back to 7,000 years, which comprise multiple archaeological distant cultural groups such as the Archaic Maritime, Pre-Inuit, and Inuit. The more recently one are the Inuit, which arrived from circumpolar North about 500 years ago. While these were all highly mobile foraging people, the Nain region appeared to have seen a constant maintained occupancy since the initial settlement. The size of the Inuit population in the Nain region has varied since the 18th century, but historical sources demonstrate a very general increase of the population. For all that culture, wood was always an essential raw material, more particularly for Inuit, who use wood as for the construction of kayak, for construction of boat, sled, and other small everyday tools. Wood was also needed for the construction of the winter semi-subterraneous houses and other summer tents in the campaign. In the 19th century, the wood was used for the construction of plank house and other infrastructures of dock, fence. Wood was also used to heat their plank house. Another significant use of wood was the construction of fish flakes used to dry fish for commercial fishery. So the present study here consists to a synthesis of dendrochronological analysis and historical and archaeological data to assess to what extent the dynamic of the spruce forests are linked to anthropogenic impact. So this is the study area. So Labrador is located at the extreme east coast of Canada. You have a little map up right here, just here. We are in the Nunatsiavut territory, so the Inuit land. For the study, we compare the forest from 5 different sites. 3 of them are continental, and 2 of them are located in the island. So here you have the view of the 5 sites. So you can have a view of the composition of the forest. As you can see, the 3 upper pictures show quite similar forests with straight trees composed with large white and black spruce. Maybe the difference is the forest of Kamarsuk and Webb's Bay are a bit more open than the forest in Nain, but they are quite similar. On Highland, you have the forests of South Atlantic and the Island, where forest is very open. Trees are grouped in, it's called grove. Straight trees are few, and we can see a lot of crummels. So crummels are like some tree very impacted by climate, so they grow on a very different shape. So even if there's many different between those forests, all of them have 2 points in common. The first one, when you walk in those forests, is there's no wood on that lay on the ground, and there's a large number of stumps. So this is some example that what we can see when you walk on those forests. So you have many stumps with cut mark. In the Island, during the excavation of the archaeological site of Oaks Bay 1, some very nice piece of wood have been found. So they were used to do some dendroecological analysis. And in the peat accumulation surrounding the archaeological site, you can find some, just here, the more reddish sediment. So it's decomposed wood. So we have decomposed and buried stump in the peat accumulation. So all of them, all of them is a sign that human could have an impact on the forest. The demographic reconstruction of the population is based on published historical sources we took Moravian Missionary Archive, Royal Navy records, historical journals such as Dende, that is very particular to Labrador. We also use information in some interview with elder, and of course, archaeological data. So all of them, when we combine all of them, we were able to get an extrapolation of the number of the houses. And following the previous work by Taylor in 70s, we can estimate about 20 people by houses, so we can have a big picture of the demographic population in this region. So this allows us to construct the following graph, which illustrates the evolution of the number of households and therefore indirectly the evolution of the population at each site. The graph illustrates the rapid increase in the population of Nain from the beginning of the 19th century in Nain, so the light blue curve just here. The other site have a more constant number of households and very low density, so the other site just here. So this was for the demographic data. We were also interested in Rerelease event. Rerelease occur during canopy gap. They result in radial growth expansion in response to a limiting factor such as light or nutrient, which becomes suddenly abundant. On the graph here, you have an example of Rerelease. So here you have a chronological series of wing ride, and Rerelease in that series appear like this. So it's a very sharp increase of ring in the chronology in the tree. For detect this Rerelease, we use the boundary line method, which is function to maximum physiological potential of species as defined by a normalized growth rate. For this study, we have used growth rate greater than or equal to 20% and lasting 10 years to define our Rerelease. So after having detected all these Rerelease, they are illustrated in this graph. In graph A, on the left axis, you have the number of Rerelease by decay. On the right axis, you have the number of tree by decay. On graph B, you have the residual value of the log linear regression. This statistical method was applied to reduce the effect of time in the grow release theory, because further we go back in time, more it's difficult to get tree due to they are decomposed or only collected by humans. So to remove the effect of time and get our grow release more significant, we use this approach. So when we have positive residual value, that means that the data is significant. So the overall, what we can interpret from this graph is the overall forest composition of island sit contrasts with continental site in terms of age. The Nain, Webb's Bay, and Kamarsuk forests are really younger than the South Atlantic and Dog Island forests. Also, grow release associated with wood harvesting were observed on many spruce trees. They occur more or less sporadically, except for the end of the 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, when all sites show consistent and significant occurrence of grow release. So now, if we combine the demographic data with the dendroecological data, we can put this graph. The line expresses the demographic data, and the black bar expresses the number of grow release. So what we can see is before 1900 in Nain, we observe a scarcity of grow release event. This is probably due to the young age of the forest. The young age of the forest is possibly explained by the sharp increase in the population during the 19th century, which implied necessarily the increase of the needs of wood. In South Atlantic, what will surprise us is the lack of concordance between grow release event and occupation record. For the period between 1650 and 1710, there's some grow release, but there are no human occupation documentation from archaeological and historical source for that time. But we found some notes on historical sources that the site was located in a winter trail, so to go further north on other island where there's no tree. So possibly human just stop by, collect some tree, and go further north. For the period between 1790 and 1880, there's no grow release, but the city is known to have been occupied. So we have some difficulty to explain that that gap in the series, but this site is still under analysis, so probably for our further work will fill it. For Dog Island, we have a very great chronology with continuous series of moderate disturbance events since the last 500 years. For the period of 1650-1772, this is the period where the sit was the most intense occupation, but we have very low occurrence of grow release event for that time. This can be explained by the fact that during that period, Inuit was living on the traditional way, so in winter semi-subterranean stud houses. So wood was used only to the structure of the house, of the stud houses, so the needed wood was very modest. Moreover, those houses was heated using fat seal, so there was no need of wood for heating the house. So the consumption of wood for the maintenance of this house was very, very low. After 1900, we observe a period of very widespread and constant and significant grow release event at all sites. We also saw a very clear correspondence between with the increase of the population until 1950. So it's the limit of our demographic reconstruction. For that period, wood was used universally for the construction of plank house, but also for consumption as fuel for the house. At that time, each house was have a cast iron stove in it, so the need of wood was very huge. In conclusion of the presentation, I would like to show you these 4 pictures, which illustrate a retrospective of the house architectural evolution in Labrador. I think that this picture talk to themselves. They illustrate very well the increase of use in the lifestyle of Inuit along the Labrador coast. And we can clearly see the increase in the increase of the wood harvesting, which has undoubtedly an influence on the forest dynamic along the Labrador coast. Thank you.